The bringing of the Messiah is a very, very fascinating subject in itself, because the methodology of how the Messiah comes about is through the daughters of Lot. It is an incestual relationship between a father and daughter, actually a father and two daughters, that brought upon two different nations. One is called Moab and one is called Midian. The fascinating thing about Moab and Midian is that one of them, Moab, is really the father or the mother of the Messiah, because King David is the descendant of Ruth, and Ruth is the descendant of Moab. So it's amazing. Two sisters did the same action. They slept with their father. One is going to bring the Messiah to the world, and one is not. And what's really remarkable about it is the daughter that had the child, called Moab, takes responsibility for her actions. And she doesn't want to confuse the reality with anybody else. And therefore she names her child Moab, from my father. Midian is hiding it a bit. But Moab, everyone should know that this is from how you take responsibility on your actions. And whether you're right or you're wrong, you take responsibility, then you could be possibly a Messiah. Yehuda did it. He said, Tzadka Mimeni. He could have hid it. He was the king. Tamar came and said, who does these items belong to? That's the person that I violated with. Yehuda could have ignored it. She would have been burned. And no, he says, Tzadk, she's right. I should have taken care of business earlier. The Messiah, the person that will, in the moments of darkness, that's going to reveal truth to the world, has to come from a person that's not scared of saying the truth. Hence, Judah, Moab, this is the truth, know it. So what's very fascinating is that 24,000 young Jewish men went and violated, and they went to the daughters of Moab in the end of Parashas Balak. And Pinchas ultimately goes and changes the tide by killing Zimri. What were these 24,000 men thinking? The Holy Books say it was not just an act of lust, that they had an opportunity to go have some worldly pleasures, but they all understood that this is the source upon which the Messiah is going to come, and they all wanted to take part and say, maybe from me it's going to come. But what happened was, on the way to doing this deed, the women demanded that they violate and do idolatry. And because they did idolatry, it contaminated the entire episode. Yes, there would have been a method upon which they could come, they can convert, and they can possibly conceive the Messiah, and it would have been a very positive reality. But because it was contaminated, it didn't work. And therefore, those 24,000 were lost. And they didn't have any positive offspring. Comes Zimri, Nasi Bet Av Shimoni, and he says, we're losing our children. We need to do something not to lose our children. So he takes a Midianite princess, and he does a deed in public with her. And his equation, explained by the great rabbis, is, if we send our kids to Moab, we're losing them to idolatry and to into sexuality, and we lose them entirely. Let's cut out the avodah zarah, the idolatry, and let's bring home the test, and let's just be just a compromise. We're just having illegitimate relations. It has nothing to do with idolatry. It's an upgrade. It's an upgrade. So he comes and he says, let's bring it home and let's minimize the sin. And he goes public with it. The result is, Pinchas sees, he says, you're violating the commandment of the Torah. Even though his intentions were correct, to increase the possibility of the children not to go off entirely, but nevertheless it's a violation of Torah law. To which Pinchas creates the reality, and even though it was a law that Moses forgot, and he did the action of Kanayim Pogimbo, that if you're a zealot and you care for the honor of Hashem, he went and he took a sword, he took a spear, and he stabbed both of them, and he brought it to the attention of the entire nation. Now, in society we have issues with zealots, and they're not always from the more popular people. But I'd like to take a moment in the defense of Pinchas, and that is, where was Pinchas when the whole nation did idolatry by the golden calf? Where was Pinchas by all of the sins that the nation did throughout the entire travels in the desert? Where were they? Where was Pinchas? You know where he was? He was not just out of action. There was no necessity for him to be a zealot, because there's only one application of zealous that is permissible in the Torah. And that's with the application where someone does this violation in public, and it has to bother you for the sake of God. And if it doesn't bother you, then you have no right to kill a person. You have no right to take a life on something that doesn't bother you for the sake of God. So Pinchas teaches us the most profound lesson, that the only time you're allowed to express a way of zealous activity is only if the byproduct of your actions will bring peace. For example, V'natati lo biriti shalom, Pinchas became the person that emanates and brought forth peace amongst the nation. And every Eliyahu Hanavi is meant to be Pinchas, and he's by every brit, every child goes into his covenant, Eliyahu is there. The result is what? That the actions of the zealous only festered and manufactured much more peace. You see, there was a violation of Shabbat in the desert, and Pinchas didn't stand there and start screaming Shabbos. He didn't do that. I'm sure it bothered him, and I'm sure it had a great effect on the Jewish people, but nevertheless, no, there's no halachic obligation to do that. So Pinchas teaches us the lesson by the lack of action. Where was he by all the other applications? There was no need for zealousy. And that's an important lesson, because if we want to be a zealot, we need to know that whatever we're going to do, whatever we're going to scream or shout or protest, if the end product is that there's less peace, then you should know that it's counterproductive to God's will. The way of Hashem is the way of pleasantry, and every single path has to come to peace. So bear in mind, before we get all excited about something, am I creating an issue or am I creating peace? If I'm creating peace, so then peace be with you. Thank you.